handshakes, mutual courtesies, patting each other on the back. Kind words and nice gestures during the Brussels summit on the situation in Ukraine were really not lacking. So were general declarations.
From Paris to London to Brussels, we have shown that we are willing and able to step up our joint efforts and to coordinate effectively.
Ukraine's path to the EU must be unwavering and guaranteed. I am even ready to talk to Putin if Ukraine and European partners think the time is right. The problem is that European leaders are talking, meeting and holding summits, and meanwhile, people are dying in Ukraine from Russian missiles. Despite the leaders of European countries meeting up now and agreeing that the frozen Russian assets must be used and that the defense budgets of the European countries must be increased, if this is not more than 10 years too late, it is at least more than 3 years too late. That's why U.S. President Donald Trump is proposing a ceasefire to save Ukrainian civilians.
I think what's going to happen is Ukraine wants to make a deal because I don't think they have a choice. I also think that Russia wants to make a deal because in a different way that only I know.
The price of peace may be some kind of reset with Russia, as suggested by Donald Trump's envoy for Ukraine and Russia, General Keith Kellogg.
There is also a broader strategy at play in President Trump's approach to this war that is informed by the realization that the United States needs to reset relations with Russia.
A word that is very badly associated in Poland with the reset of relations with Russia under Donald Tusk's first administration. In America, has been part of geopolitics during the terms of various presidents. The most spectacular reset took place under Barack Obama, when the Secretary of State at the time, Hillary Clinton, and Russian Marshal Sergei Lavrov announced the reset of mutual relations in this way. That reset, first of all, made Europe dependent, and this reset, please note, it strengthens Europe militarily, paradoxically, because it requires more independence of countries. The idea is to get the kind of political pause when Russia becomes less aggressive towards the United States, moves more into a neutral orbit, and is ripped out of China's embrace. That's why it's important for Europe, and especially our region, to have a strong alliance with America to guarantee security and deter Russia from its imperial inclinations. In some areas of European security or defense, only the United States is competent, and it would take several decades for Europe to be able to fill its deficits on their own, in the absence of the United States. This is the result of Europe dismantling national armies for years. Poland, under the previous government, was a role model of how defense should be strengthened. Now President Andrzej Duda has a concrete proposal for NATO allies. I have submitted a written request to the Secretary General regarding the upcoming summit in The Hague, so that this matter will be brought to the table, and that within the North Atlantic Alliance, a decision be made that at least 3% of the GDP of alliance member countries be allocated to defense. Of course, you can contribute more if you want, and not from 2030, but immediately. This is not the first warning and appeal by the Polish president. Unfortunately, many countries, especially in Western Europe, did not want to believe in the Kremlin's criminal intentions until the end.
Uncertain times. And I know some may have concerns about NATO's future, so let me be clear. The transatlantic relationship and the transatlantic partnership remains the bedrock of our alliance. President Trump has made clear its commitment of the US and his commitment personally to NATO. And it has also made clear the expectation that we in Europe must do more in terms of defense spending. And here,
a strong alliance with America is a guarantee of security, but it is not provided for free. Countries, especially on the eastern flank, must constantly strengthen their own defense capabilities so as to effectively deter a Russian aggressor. Up to 100 people may have been killed in Syria's coastal regions, where militants linked to ousted Syrian leader Bashar al-Assad have carried out attacks on government forces. These are the most serious clashes since last December. Government forces sent intervention troops overnight to the cities of Latakia and Tartus, which are home to the Alawite minority, to bring the situation under control. We are going to the coastal areas to defeat the remnants of the militants of ousted President Assad, who attacked our brothers in the security administration in Latakia province. Tensions in the coastal area have surged in recent days. This is the biggest challenge for interim President Ahmed al-Shara, who is trying to consolidate his power. This morning, the groups of the remnants of the overthrown regime were eliminated in the Dator neighborhood, and they constitute the main danger in the city of Latakia. Security and safety are gradually returning to the city of Latakia. Syria's years-long civil war came to an end last December. Rebels from the Islamic organization Tahrir al-Sham seized power, and dictator Bashar al-Assad fled to Moscow, where he and his family were granted asylum. Apparently in different ways, whether services or military, they have rebuilt themselves. The question is who is coordinating this, whether it's maybe some coordination through Assad's former contacts, and now, for example, Moscow is coordinating it, because we can't rule that out either. Now Assad's supporters are raising their heads and starting to attack government troops. They have no chance when it comes to the current confrontation and some kind of march on Damascus. That's unlikely to happen, while the Alawites on their own territory are a sufficient force that can inflict blood on the Syrian authorities. Alawites are the largest religious minority in Syria. Before the civil war, they made up about 700,000 residents, or 11% of the population. But that's not the only problem for Syria's new authorities. There is still tension over the Druze and over the presence of Israeli troops along the border with Lebanon. There is also a problem of Turkish pressure in Kurdistan. It has become quite a mess there. The whole world is watching developments in Syria with concern and asking whether it is in danger of another civil war. I think the civil war is not over, because the fact that we have let go of the area and do not observe what is going on there doesn't mean that it has quieted down there. The government is not controlling everything 100%. Syrians still have many years ahead of them to build the structure of their state. The new army, the new police, the new services. All this is supposed to show the prowess of the new government, because people expect calm. People already want to go back and rebuild their homes. Syrians are already tired of 13 years of civil war, in which nearly 600,000 people were killed and 6.5 million people had to leave their homes. We want children to go to school, for their employees to go to their jobs, and merchants to go about their business. Life has to go on normally. The world's largest and oldest iceberg, A23A, appears to have run aground off the British island of South Georgia. Environmentalists and fishermen say there is a serious threat to animals and ships.
It's had a somewhat unconventional life's history for an iceberg. I think the most recent thing people are talking about is when it broke free of the latest structure it was stuck in, which was a rotating column, which kept it fixed in the same place. It started moving very quickly in the direction of the island of South Georgia.
The giant mountain that broke away from the ice sheet in 1986 began moving rapidly in 2020.
The speed it was moving at and its sheer size means that if it was to ground on the shelf of the island, it would have some consequences. It would cause a change.
Footage from a few days ago shows the size of the iceberg, which scientists say is the size of a huge city and weighs nearly 1 trillion tons.
Where it's now stuck, at least for now, it's in much warmer waters than where it's been before. So we would expect this would massively accelerate the rate that the iceberg is melting. And as it melts, it's likely to break off into smaller chunks and kind of shed lots of its surface area.
Scientists say that stopping the iceberg will not be a problem for local fauna, as the breeding season for seals and penguins is coming to an end. Nevertheless, it could affect physical and biological phenomena off the coast of South Georgia Island.
If you imagine a giant iceberg, the one we're talking about is twice the size of Greater London. They're bigger than countries. So they're massive chunks of ice that are moving through the ocean to places they weren't before. So you're putting this massive expanse of a different material into a place that has not necessarily ever had that before. So you're completely changing what's going on.
In the case of previous giant icebergs that stuck near South Georgia Island, this was the last place they were visible, and they have been melting ever since. Although they were much smaller, we hope the same will happen now.